one of my biggest New Year's resolutions was to try and really focus my mind on getting the balance right between being transparent and open and friendly and welcoming and protecting my own privacy in the digital world, which seems to me to be incredibly difficult. And the truth is, over the years, I've also been burnt so many times on this one that that the danger is you become so cautious that then you become not very transparent. Anyhow, it's a balancing act. So it was an idea that as part of New Year's resolutions, lots of us on Women Emerging from Isolation would reach out to other people and say, how can you help me on my New Year's resolution? So I sent out a message and said, who can help me? And there are 3 women who've come back and really, really helped me. And I urge you through January, shove up your own New Year's resolutions and ask other people to help you as they've helped me. So first, Priya was really interesting because she said to me, my principle is be as candid as you possibly can. And she said quite rightly, I think, that social media is so full of I'm so brilliant, I'm so successful, success stories, that actually the world doesn't need many more great success stories on social media. Be candid about things that go wrong as well as things that go right. But she's really, really clear that she calls it draw the line at micro details. And I said, give me an example of a micro detail. And she said, well, the name of one of my children or a photograph of my children. Priya, thank you. That helped me a lot. Then Sam was fantastic. And she started by saying that the first, you've got to really start at the basics, which is really consciously trying to think through why you are posting. And her rule of thumb is that you only post things that will be either helpful to people or interesting to people. So, for example, she has a very significant network in her own field and therefore hears about lots of opportunities and vacancies in her own field and tries to spread that to other people so that they can see opportunities for themselves. And the second one is that she has some very considerable skills in certain areas, knows a lot about them, shares them, and also shares the insights from other people in her field. Really consciously thinking through why she's on social media and what she's doing. She then used the really interesting expression, I've got it written down here, which is don't let yourself get drawn into collective, competitive, conscious space. And if I'm honest, I didn't quite understand the expression. So we then went backwards and forwards and it helped me a lot. This concept that you do get drawn into a sort of an online competitiveness that's incredibly unhelpful and that at worst can make you really feel quite negative about yourself and almost unworthy compared to other people. And in which case, competitiveness, instead of producing drive and energy, produces a sort of grind in people. And competitiveness online particularly does that. Sam talked a lot and very interestingly about the like button, which I don't think I've really thought it through at all. The danger of becoming almost addicted to the likes. Why isn't someone liking what I've put up? They like other people's stuff. Why aren't they liking my stuff? Why have they only given me a like rather than a share or a comment? Is that because they didn't really mean the like? And why do people give me likes so slowly when other people get likes so much faster than me? it really resonated. Embarrassingly, it resonated. You know, you do become addicted to the likes, and you begin to rank and compare yourself with other women based on that. And Sam was just reinforcing, you know, the scale of social media is so terrifying. The speed of it, the scale of it, but also the ease with which people comment or give you feedback that they might not give you face to face. The glibness of their feedback in few words can sometimes really hurt yourself when you have effectively put yourself on display. The third woman I spoke to was Ilona, and here I filmed some of her advice, which I find enormously helpful.
Digital technology reduces our communication styles to that of our teenage selves. Compounded with this, we have the technology interface itself. The way that it's designed is to reduce our inhibitions, especially when communicating with others. And we don't have that physical feedback like we're talking in real life. This is why you may have seen people reacting strangely online at times. So maybe a really aggressive tweet and you're like, where did that come from? Or, you know, gossip and chit chat and all that stuff. It is because of the way that the technology and us interact with each other. Those normal social cues that we have in real life are reduced or even removed, and there's no feedback mechanism to help us understand who we are actually talking to. How many interactions do you have with people every single day? Let's just take an average day and as an example to get you thinking. So imagine if I wake up, I pop to the shop, say hello to the staff there, I greet the bus driver, I chat to my colleagues, I maybe meet up with my work bestie, we have lunch, and maybe I see my mum after work. Now, in each of these interactions, I am being authentic, I am being myself, and I adjust each and every time I speak to these people. It's a way of getting a feedback mechanism for me to understand what I should share with them and why. So adjusting with each of these interactions, I remain true to myself and authentic. Now, you wouldn't go about your day telling every single person the same information. And the same is true if we're online. The way you show up and inhabit digital spaces online requires us to be discerning about what we share with everyone out there, right? Knowing what is authentic to you and using your vulnerability in powerful ways that can make a difference, rather than vulnerability for vulnerability's sake, or just because the way that the technology is designed to encourage you to get entangled in this digital intimacy. A digital hangover is even worse because you don't get the feedback. You just realized, uh-oh, that was probably a bit too much, and you feel it more in yourself because you have to understand where that boundary is. So the best thing to do is understand where you feel comfortable, what feels appropriate to you, and also what is going to keep you safe. Because as women online, we can be exposed and targeted more. So it's important that we understand where that could be for us personally, and making sure that we are able to share safely in, like, you know, our messages. The pandemic has had an interesting impact as many of us have worked from home, and we're going to continue to do so. We've inhabited our domestic spaces, and this has had an impact on our behaviour, where our home self has really become imbued with our work selves. And the space that you inhabit influences the way that you use technology. Think about how you would show up in an office versus at the coffee shop. And think about as well how you use your phone to communicate versus the way you communicate on your laptop. Spaces, both online and in real life, influence how you are in that space. To be authentic means to be true to yourself. And it's time for us now to be intentional about how we show up in the digital world and think about what is appropriate to reveal and in which space. Remember, when you go into the office, nobody is actually trying to work out how to get more out of you. I mean, apart from maybe your work bestie at lunch, but generally, nobody is going to be trying to extract these things from you. But the digital technology has been designed to reduce those barriers, right? And there's the dopamine feedback cycle when you're on social media, etc. So it ends up being like almost like a little bit more each and every time. And it's up to you to really have those firm boundaries about what is appropriate for you, but also thinking strategically how to leverage the tools and technology for your message and your leadership. How do you start this process of leading authentically online? Firstly, I would encourage you to take a check of your digital presence. Where are you now? What platforms do you use and why? And if you don't have an online presence, where would you like to explore that? Because it's really important that you start to build that online presence as you step into your leadership as a woman. Second, I want you to think about who you are going to be on those digital platforms and what do you want to come across as. Have a look at what you've done so far and have a think about who you want to be, and then guide your content and what you're sharing to that vision of your future self. You have a digital leadership persona that is equally as valuable as your in real life, in the office persona.
I'm incredibly grateful to Priya, Sam and Ilona for their insights. It's made my New Year's resolution easier to deliver on. I leave you with one last thought from Ilona, which I find very powerful.
The other part around this is I really want women to use their voice to step up and demand safe spaces online. So, for example, when Uber first launched, the app didn't have any safety features for women. It wasn't until things were reported in about incidents that had happened that were affecting women's safety in an Uber cab that they actually started to design safety within the app. So in any digital space, please use your voice to actually say, this is what we want in terms of safety. The other example is actually Bumble. So Bumble is a dating app, and they designed it so that it would obscure pictures that got sent, so you wouldn't automatically see something that you really didn't want to see. You have to click to reveal. Now, these are great things that happen, but they happen because women stepped up and said, I want there to be these spaces, these digital places where I actually interact to be safe, and they designed it to be so. So wherever there is an opportunity to, go forward and actually demand safe spaces online for women.